Elderly mechanic cries upon seeing young American woman start plane. He tried for 20 years. Walter Jenkins was once again on his knees before that engine that had resisted all his efforts for 2 decades. His trembling hands held the wrench while tears of frustration streamed down his weathered face. Once again, the plane remained silent. That's when young Jessica Taylor appeared at the doorway of the dusty hangar at Wichita Municipal Airport, looking for an internship opportunity. She had just graduated from aeronautical engineering school and was determined to prove her worth in the world of aviation. "Sorry to bother you. Are you in charge of this hangar?" she asked, observing the old airplane in the center of the space. Walter looked up annoyed. At 75, he had no patience for curious onlookers. "This is no place for a young lady. Aviation is men's business," he replied sharply, turning his attention back to the engine. Jessica felt her blood boil. Throughout college, she had faced this kind of prejudice. "With all due respect, sir, I graduated with the highest grades in my class. I know as much as any man about airplane engines." "Oh, you do? Then explain to me why this engine hasn't worked for 20 years, Walter challenged, pointing to the aircraft. The young woman approached and examined the model. It was a classic Little Eagle, probably from the 1950s. Her eyes sparkled as she recognized the rarity. "This is a Skymaster C4, isn't it? There are very few examples left in the United States." Walter stopped working and looked at her with renewed interest. "You know this model?" "I studied them in college. They were fundamental to American civil aviation. But may I take a look? Maybe I can identify the problem." The old mechanic hesitated. That airplane represented more than just a machine to him. It was the last promise he had made to his wife before she passed away forever. "It's no use. I've tried everything. I've tried. I replaced every bolt, every cable, every part I could replace. This airplane is cursed." Jessica noticed the sadness in the man's voice and decided to try a different approach. "Have you been working in aviation for a long time?" 45 years. I started as an apprentice right here at this airport when I was 30. I've fixed hundreds of planes. But this one defeated me." The young woman walked around the aircraft, observing every detail. Something caught her attention in the electrical system. "Mr. Jenkins, the problem might not be in the engine itself. Have you checked the electrical system?" "Of course I have. I rewired the entire installation 3 times. "But what about the main harness? Sometimes the problem is in the circuit activation sequence." Walter stopped and stared at her. No one had suggested that before. "What sequence?" "Each model has a specific order for activating the systems. If the sequence is wrong, the engine will never start, even if everything is mechanically perfect." The mechanic felt a chill in his stomach. Could it be that after so many years, the solution was that simple? "And do you know what the correct sequence is?" "I can research it. I have contacts at the American Aviation Federation who can help me." At that moment, a gruff voice echoed through the hangar. "Dad, what are you still doing there?" Walter shrank back as he saw his son Robert approaching. The 45-year-old man always had an impatient expression on his face. "Robert, Dad, we've talked about this. You need to accept Richard's offer. He wants to buy this hangar to build a parking lot. It's a good amount of money." Jessica watched the tension between father and son. Robert didn't even greet her, completely ignoring her presence. "I'm not selling. This place is my life," Walter said firmly. "Your life. Dad, you're 75 years old. It's time to really retire and come live with me and Karen." "I won't abandon your mother's plane." Robert rolled his eyes. "Mom's not here anymore, Dad. And this old heap will never work anyway. Stop fooling yourself." Jessica felt the need to intervene. "Excuse me, I believe I can help fix the plane." Robert looked at her as if she were an insect. "And who are you?" "Jessica Taylor, aerospace engineer. I came looking for an internship and offered to help your father." "An internship? Here?" Robert laughed scornfully. "Miss, this place is being demolished in a few weeks. Don't waste your time." "Robert," scolded Walter. "It's the truth, Dad. Richard already filed the papers with the city council. Either you accept his offer or he'll get it through the courts anyway." Jessica saw the desperation in the old mechanic's eyes and made a decision. "Mr. Jenkins, give me a week. If I can't get this plane to work in a week, I'll convince you myself to accept the offer. Robert guffawed. A week? My father has tried for 20 years. Then it won't cost anything to wait one more week, Jessica retorted. Walter looked at the young woman. There was something in her eyes he hadn't seen in a long time. Hope. All right, 1 week. Robert shook his head and walked off, muttering about wasted time and an old man's stubbornness. As soon as they were alone, Jessica approached Walter. Tell me about your wife. What did she mean to this plane? The old mechanic's face softened. Dorothy was a pilot, one of the few women who got her pilot's license in the 1960s. This Skymaster C4 was hers. Did she fly commercially? No, they gave few flights to women back then, but she gave flying lessons to other women. She dreamed of starting a school just for girls. Jessica felt a shiver. It was exactly the kind of story that inspired her. And what happened to her? Walter looked away. One day she just left. Said she needed to take a trip and never came back. She left only a letter saying she loved me, but that she had a mission to fulfill. When was that? 20 years ago, exactly when the plane stopped working. Jessica felt there was more to this story than Walter was telling. And you never found out where she went? Never. Robert always said she abandoned us, that she found another man, but I never believed that. Dorothy wasn't like that. The young engineer looked at the plane again. There was something about that story that didn't add up. Mr. Jenkins, can I ask a personal question? Go ahead. Did you really try everything to fix this plane? The old mechanic lowered his head. To be honest, in recent years I kinda gave up. After I found out... He stopped. Found out what? Walter hesitated as if wrestling with some secret. Nothing. An old man's nonsense. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Jessica spent the rest of the afternoon examining the plane in detail. The more she looked, the more intrigued she became. There were signs that someone had recently tampered with some parts, but the work seemed amateur. The next day she returned to the hangar with a folder full of documents. I got the original Skymaster C4 manual and the correct activation sequence, she announced, finding Walter cleaning his tools. So, what was the error? I don't know yet. I need to test it. But first, can I ask a few questions about the plane's history? Go ahead. When was the last time it worked perfectly? Walter thought for a moment. It was in March 2004. Dorothy took a test flight the week before she left. And after that, the next week I tried to start it and it wouldn't work anymore. Did anyone else besides you work on the plane? Walter was silent for a few seconds. Well, Robert tried to help a few times in the early years. Help how? He said the problem might be with a specific component. He even replaced some parts. Jessica felt a suspicion growing in her chest. What kind of parts? Mostly electrical components. He always said he understood electronics because of the technical course he took. And when did he stop helping? After about 5 years. He said it was a waste of time and that I should get rid of the plane. The young engineer began examining the electrical components more closely. She found several parts that looked new but were installed incorrectly. Mr. Jenkins, may I be direct with you? Of course. I believe someone deliberately sabotaged this plane. The old mechanic dropped the tool he was holding. What do you mean? Several connections are wrong, but in a very specific way. It's not an inexperienced mistake. It's as if someone knew exactly what to do to prevent the engine from working, but in a way that wasn't obvious. Walter sat down heavily in an old chair. Are you suggesting that I'm saying someone who knows aviation did this on purpose? But why? That's the question we need to answer. At that moment, Robert appeared again in the hangar. Dad, I came to get you. Karen made lunch. Robert, Jessica found evidence that someone sabotaged the plane, Walter said directly. Robert's face paled for a moment before he regained his composure. Sabotaged? What nonsense is this? The electrical connections are deliberately wrong, Jessica explained. So what? My father is old. He might have gotten confused while making the repairs. But you said you helped with the repairs in the early years, Jessica reminded him. I did help. So what? Some of these wrong connections are on parts that you replaced. Robert became visibly nervous. Are you accusing me of something? I'm just trying to understand what happened. Listen here, young lady. I don't know who you think you are, but I'm not going to stand here listening to accusations. Walter watched the discussion in silence, an expression of growing suspicion on his face. Robert, answer one thing for me, the father said slowly. What? Why did you always insist so much that I get rid of this plane? Because it's an old piece of junk that doesn't work. It's obvious. But why does it bother you so much? It's my hobby, my passion. Robert realized he had gotten himself into a delicate situation. It doesn't bother me, Dad. I just think you're wasting your time. Or maybe you don't want me to find out the truth, Walter said, standing up. What truth? The truth about why this plane stopped working exactly when your mother disappeared. The tension in the hangar became palpable. Robert looked from one to the other, clearly looking for a way out. I don't know what you're talking about, and I'm not going to stand here listening to these ridiculous accusations. He left the hangar, stomping his feet. Walter and Jessica remained silent for a few minutes. Mr. Jenkins, I need to ask you something, Jessica finally said. Go ahead. Do you suspect that Robert might have sabotaged the plane? The old mechanic sighed deeply. Jessica, a few years ago I found some notes in Robert's room. He had researched how to disable airplane electrical systems. And you never confronted him. How could I accuse my own son? I preferred to believe it was to help me. But why would he do that? Robert always thought Dorothy had abandoned the family. He was only 25 when she disappeared. Maybe he wanted to force me to forget about her. Jessica became thoughtful. Or maybe he knew something that you don't. What do you mean? Mr. Jenkins, let me do some research about your wife. Maybe I can find some answers. You would do that? Of course, but first let's fix this plane. Now that I know it was sabotage, I can reverse the damage. Over the next 2 days, Jessica worked tirelessly to fix all the faulty connections. Walter watched her, impressed by the young woman's knowledge and determination. You remind me so much of Dorothy, he commented as she worked. How so? She had that same determination. When she decided to do something, nothing could stop her. She must have been a very special woman. She was, a real trailblazer for her time. She faced a lot of prejudice to be able to fly. Just like me today. Unfortunately, prejudice still exists, doesn't it? It does. But that just motivates me more. On the 3rd day, Jessica made an important discovery. While searching through flight records, she found documents that changed everything. Mr. Walter, I need to show you something. What is it? I managed to access the airport's flight records from 2004. Your wife didn't vanish without a trace. Walter dropped everything and came closer. What did you find? Dorothy filed a flight plan on March 15, 2004. Destination: Topeka Municipal Airport. Topeka? But why? I don't know yet. But there's more. She came back the same day. She came back? What do you mean? There's a landing record here in Wichita at 6:30 p.m. the same day. But after that, nothing. Walter was in shock. You mean she didn't run away? At least not by plane. She might have left by land after she returned. But why didn't she come to me? That's the question that needs to be answered. At that moment, they heard footsteps in the hangar. It was Robert, but this time he wasn't alone. A well-dressed man in a suit was with him. Dad, this is Richard Thompson, the businessman who wants to buy the hangar. The man extended his hand to Walter. A pleasure to meet you, Mr. Walter. I have an excellent proposal for you. I already said I'm not interested, Walter replied. Perhaps you'll change your mind when you learn I have authorization from the city to appropriate this land. Appropriate? The airport modernization project includes expanding the parking area. This hangar is scheduled for demolition. Jessica intervened. On what legal grounds? Richard looked at her with disdain. Abandonment of property. The hangar hasn't been used for commercial activities for over 5 years. But Mr. Walter has legal possession of the space. He had possession. The contract expired and wasn't renewed due to non-payment of the fees. Walter went pale. What fees? Robert looked down. The annual space usage fees, Dad. I told you I'd take care of it. And did you? I forgot. Jessica sensed there was more to the story. When exactly did the contract expire? Richard checked a folder. Last December, Mr. Walter was notified several times. I never received any notification, Walter protested. The notifications were sent to the address on file. What address? 234 Maple Street, the home of Mr. Robert Jenkins. Walter looked at his son, shocked. Robert, why were the notifications going to your house? I changed the address in the file because I thought it would be easier to manage. And why didn't you tell me about the notifications? Robert fell silent, clearly uncomfortable. Richard took advantage of the confusion. Regardless, the situation is irreversible. I can offer a fair settlement, but the hangar will be demolished next month. Wait a minute, said Jessica. If the plane is considered a historical asset, the hangar could be preserved. A historical asset? Richard laughed. That old thing? This is an original Skymaster C4, one of the last airworthy examples in the United States. But it hasn't flown in 20 years, Robert reminded her. Not yet, but when I finish the repairs, it will fly again. Richard and Robert exchanged worried looks. Even if it flies, that doesn't guarantee the hangar's preservation, said Richard. Yes, it does, if there's public and cultural interest. Richard Thompson realized he needed to act fast. I have a counteroffer. I'll buy the plane along with the hangar. I'll pay $50,000 for the whole package. It was a tempting amount. Robert looked hopefully at his father. Dad, it's a good offer. $50,000 is a lot of money. Walter Jenkins looked at the plane, then at Jessica, and finally at Robert. This plane is not for sale. Richard sighed. Then I will have to proceed with the eminent domain process. Gentlemen, you have 30 days to vacate the premises. He left, leaving Robert visibly irritated. Dad, you're being stubborn. $50,000 would solve all our problems. What problems, Robert? Robert hesitated before answering. Well, I have some debts. What kind of debts? Nothing major, just some loans I took out to expand my shop. Walter and Jessica exchanged looks. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to come together. Robert, how much do you owe? It's none of your business, Dad. It is my business if you're trying to force me to sell what's mine to pay your debts. That's not it. Then what is it? Robert exploded. Fine, yes, I owe money, a lot of money, and if I don't pay, they'll take my shop. Are you satisfied? Why didn't you ask me for help? With what money were you going to help me? Your pension is barely enough for you to live on. Jessica sensed the family tension and decided to intervene. Maybe there's a solution for all the problems. How so? Asked father and son at the same time. If we can get the plane to fly and prove it has historical value, we can turn this place into a museum or cultural center. That would generate income and solve the financial issues. Robert laughed bitterly. Cultural center with what money? There are programs for cultural and historical preservation incentives. I can help draft a proposal. You would do that? Asked Walter. Of course, but first I need to get this plane working. Robert was clearly uncomfortable with the prospect of the plane working. And if it doesn't work? Then you sell it to Richard, and everyone goes their separate ways, replied Jessica. All right, agreed Walter. We have 30 days, dear listener. If you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. In the following days, Jessica intensified her work on the plane. She had fixed all the sabotage she found, but there was still something preventing the engine from working. Mr. Jenkins, can you tell me more details about the day Dorothy disappeared? She woke up early, as always, had coffee with me, said she was going on an important flight and that when she returned she would have news to tell me. News about what? I don't know. She had been mysterious for a few weeks. She was getting strange phone calls, going out without telling me where she was going. And how was your relationship? Normal. There were no problems between us. That's why I never believed she ran off with another man. And Robert? How did he react to his mother's disappearance? Walter became thoughtful. Robert was always very attached to Dorothy. When she disappeared, he was furious. He said she had abandoned us, that she was an unnatural mother. That doesn't seem like a normal reaction for a son who loved his mother. Exactly. I always thought it was strange. Jessica continued working while processing the information. There were too many missing pieces in that puzzle. Late in the afternoon, she made a discovery that changed everything. Opening the plane's baggage compartment, she found a small forgotten suitcase. "Mr. Jenkins, come see this." The old mechanic hurried over. "What is it?" "A suitcase. It was hidden in the baggage compartment." They opened the suitcase carefully. Inside were women's clothes, documents, and several letters. "These are Dorothy's things," recognized Walter, his voice choked with emotion. Jessica picked up the documents. There were flight certificates, licenses, and something unexpected. "Mr. Walter, your wife had a commercial flight license." "Impossible. She always told me she couldn't because they didn't give opportunities to women. But it's right here. Issued 3 months before her disappearance." Walter examined the document in disbelief. "Why would she hide this from me?" Jessica picked up one of the letters. It was from an aviation company. "Look at this. It's a job offer for her, as a commercial pilot for a charter flight company." "When was it sent?" 2 weeks before the disappearance." They continued examining the suitcase's contents. There were photos of Dorothy with other women pilots, advanced course certificates, and a letter that changed everything. "My God," whispered Walter as he read. "What is it?" "It's a letter from her to me. She explains everything." Jessica read over Walter's shoulder. "My dearest Walter, if you're reading this letter, it means something has gone wrong with me. Forgive me for not telling you the truth before. In recent weeks, I received an offer to work for a company that transports organs for transplants. It's dangerous work, because sometimes we have to fly in bad conditions to save lives. I accepted because the money is very good, and it could fulfill our dream of opening a flight academy for women, but also because I feel it's my mission to help save lives. I didn't tell you because I knew you'd worry, and I didn't tell Robert because he was always against my aviation career. If something happens to me, know that it was my choice and I did it for love of our family and our dream. Take good care of our plane. It has secrets only I know. With all my love, Dorothy." Walter was crying when he finished reading. "She didn't abandon us. She went to try to make our dream come true. But what happened to her after that? I don't know. The letter doesn't explain." Jessica noticed the last sentence of the letter. "What did she mean by the plane has secrets only I know?" "I have no idea. We need to examine the plane more carefully. There might be something hidden." They spent the rest of the afternoon looking for secret compartments or clues left by Dorothy. Finally, Jessica found something strange on the instrument panel. "Mr. Walter, look at this. There are numbers engraved behind the altimeter." "What numbers?" "They look like coordinates, or maybe a radio frequency." "Radio frequency?" "Yes, I'll try tuning it on the plane's radio." She adjusted the radio to the indicated frequency, and, to both their surprise, they heard a recording. "Dorothy Jenkins, commercial pilot, final flight on March 15th, 2004. If someone is hearing this, it means you deciphered my message. I'm leaving this recording because I sensed something might go wrong on my last mission." Walter nearly fainted hearing his wife's voice after so many years. The recording continued. "Walter, my love, if you're hearing this, know that I always loved you. Robert, my son, forgive your mother for choosing to follow her dreams. The money I earned working is hidden in the hangar. Use it to make our flight academy dream come true." "Where's the money?" asked Jessica. The recording answered as if it had heard. "The money is buried beneath the 3rd floorboard, counting from the hangar entrance. It's $200,000. Use it wisely." Walter ran to the indicated spot and, with Jessica's help, found a buried box with exactly the amount mentioned. $200,000, he said incredulously. "Enough money to save the hangar and set up the academy," Jessica added. But the recording hadn't finished yet. "There's one more thing you need to know. The plane is programmed to operate only when the correct sequence is activated. It's not a technical sequence, it's a musical sequence. Play our song, Walter. The one I always sang to you. The plane will recognize it and start." Walter remembered immediately. Prairie Moon. She always sang that song. What do you mean the plane will recognize it? Dorothy was very creative. She must have programmed the electrical system to respond to a specific frequency. Jessica was impressed with Dorothy's ingenuity. So we need to play the song near the plane? Let's try. Walter began to hum Prairie Moon, and to their astonishment, lights on the panel began to flash in sequence. "It's working!" shouted Jessica. They sang the entire song, and at the end, the engine coughed and then roared to life for the first time in 20 years. Walter fell to his knees, crying with emotion. 20 years of frustration and mystery had finally been resolved. "We did it!" shouted Jessica, hugging the old mechanic. At that moment, Robert came running into the hangar, attracted by the sound of the engine. "What's going on here?" "Robert, the plane is working." "Plane," shouted Walter euphorically. Robert turned pale when he saw the engine running. How did you manage it?" "We discovered the secrets your mother left, and we found out she didn't abandon the family," explained Walter. "What secrets?" Walter showed the letter and told him about the recording. Robert listened to everything in silence, his expression gradually changing from surprise to guilt. "Dad, I have a confession to make." "What is it, son?" "I knew." "Knew what?" "I knew my mother hadn't run away. I knew about her job offer." Walter was shocked. "How did you know?" "Because I intercepted the letters from the aviation company. I hid everything from you." "Why?" Robert began to cry. "Because I was afraid of losing her. Emergency aviation is dangerous. I thought if she didn't know about the offer, she would stay here with us. But she found out anyway." "Yes. And when she disappeared, I thought it was my fault. I thought that if I hadn't hidden the letters, maybe she would have been better prepared, maybe nothing would have happened. And that's why you sabotaged the plane." Robert nodded through tears. "I didn't want you to find out that I had hidden the letters. I thought if the plane never worked, you would never find out the truth." Walter approached his son and hugged him. "Robert, you were just a 25-year-old kid. You were scared. I understand. But because of my foolishness, you suffered for 20 years thinking my mother had abandoned us. The important thing is that now we know the truth." Jessica watched the reconciliation between father and son with emotion. "And now, what are you going to do?" she asked. Walter looked at Robert. "We're going to fulfill Dorothy's dream. We're going to set up the Flight Academy for women." "But what about your debts, Robert?" "With $200,000, I can pay everything off and there will still be money left to start the project." "And Richard? He's still going to try to seize the hangar." Jessica smiled. "Leave Richard to me. With a working plane and an approved school project, he won't be able to touch this place." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. In the following weeks, a lot changed. Jessica helped Walter and Robert develop a detailed project for the Dorothy Jenkins Flight Academy. The project was approved by the city and received support from several institutions. Richard tried to contest it, but without success. A working plane with proven historical value ensured the preservation of the hangar. Robert paid off his debts and became the administrator of the school. His experience in electronics was useful for modernizing the equipment. Walter, despite his advanced age, became a theory instructor, teaching aviation history and basic mechanics. And Jessica? She became the flight school's first female instructor, fulfilling Dorothy's dream of teaching other women to fly. But the story still had one last surprise. 3 months after the school opened, a middle-aged woman appeared in the hangar. She looked tired, but her eyes shone with emotion. "Excuse me, I'm looking for Mr. Walter Jenkins." Walter, who was explaining how the engine worked to a group of students, turned around and nearly fainted. "Dorothy?" he whispered. The woman smiled with tears in her eyes. "Hello, my love." The entire hangar fell silent. Robert, who was on the other side of the space, dropped everything and ran to them. "Mom, is it really you?" Dorothy hugged her son tightly. "My dear boy, how you've grown." Jessica watched the scene, moved but also curious to understand how Dorothy had survived and where she had been all these years. "Dorothy, what happened? Where were you?" asked Walter when he found his voice again. "It's a long story. May I tell it?" Everyone gathered around her. The school students also drew closer, fascinated by the situation. "On the day of my last flight, I was transporting a heart for transplant to Chicago, but during the flight, there was an emergency with the recipient. I had to divert to Springfield. When I got there, I found out the transplant had gone wrong. And then, I was devastated. I felt I had failed in my mission, but at the hospital I met a family who had lost their daughter. She was waiting for the heart I was transporting." Dorothy paused to dry her tears before continuing. "The family was heartbroken, but they didn't blame me. On the contrary, they thanked me for trying. And then they told me they had an institution that cared for orphaned children and had always dreamed of having an aviation activities program for the kids." "And you decided to stay and help?" asked Jessica. "At first, it was only going to be for a few months, but the children won me over. And when I found out the institution was going through financial difficulties, I couldn't abandon them." "But why didn't you contact us?" asked Robert. "I tried many times. I sent letters, I called, but I could never reach you." Robert and Walter exchanged glances. It was possible that Robert, in his anger and confusion, had intercepted those attempts at contact too. "Robert?" asked Walter. His son lowered his head, ashamed. "Mom, I was angry. When letters or calls came, I didn't tell Dad." "Oh, my son," said Dorothy, hugging Robert again. "You were hurt, I understand." "But how did you know we were here now?" asked Walter. "I saw a news report on television about the Dorothy Jenkins Flight Academy. When I heard my name and saw the location, I knew you had discovered my message." "And the institution? Are you going to abandon the children now?" Dorothy smiled. "I don't have to. Over the last 20 years, I managed to structure the aviation program for the children. Now they have a full team and don't depend on just me anymore. So you can stay, if you'll have me back." Walter hugged her tightly. "Dorothy, these were the 20 longest years of my life. Never stop fighting for your dreams, but never disappear like that again." "I promise." Robert also joined the family hug. "Mom, forgive me for ruining everything." "Son, you were young and scared. We all make mistakes when we're afraid." Jessica watched the family reunion with a full heart. Her arrival at that hangar hadn't been a coincidence. It had been the start of a journey that brought a family back together and made dreams that seemed impossible come true. "And now?" asked one of the school students. Dorothy looked around, seeing the hangar transformed into a thriving school, with many women learning aviation. "Now we expand. I want to create an exchange program between our school and the institution in Springfield. Children and women learning to fly together. That's a wonderful idea," said Jessica. "And you, Jessica, will you stay with us?" "If you'll have me, yes, this place has become my home." "Of course we want you," replied Walter. "You brought our family back." Dorothy approached Jessica. "Thank you for taking care of them while I was away. And thank you for believing there was an explanation for everything. I always believe families can be reunited when there's true love involved." "You're wise for someone so young." "I learned from the best teachers," said Jessica, looking at Walter. The old mechanic smiled, his wrinkles deepening with happiness. "Dorothy, want to do something?" "What?" "Want to take a ride in our Skymaster C4? Jessica got it working perfectly. Dorothy looked at the plane, her eyes shining with excitement. "How long I've dreamed of this." "Then let's go. Jessica is an excellent pilot. She can take us." The three climbed into the plane. Jessica at the controls, Dorothy in the co-pilot seat, and Walter behind. Robert and the school students positioned themselves on the runway to watch the takeoff. When the engine roared and the plane began rolling down the runway, Walter felt he had finally found the peace he'd been searching for 20 years. "Dorothy, sing our song," he asked. Dorothy began humming Prairie Moon, and the plane seemed to respond, climbing smoothly through the skies of Wichita. From up there, they could see the hangar that now housed the school, people waving from the runway, and the entire town stretching to the horizon. 20 years ago, I dreamed of this moment, said Dorothy. And now it's real, replied Walter. Thanks to a young woman who didn't give up when everyone else would have, added Dorothy, looking at Jessica. I just did what was right. Families should be together. And dreams should be fulfilled, completed Walter. When they returned to the hangar, they found a surprise. Richard was there, but not looking like he came to fight. Mr. Walter, I came to apologize. When I heard the whole story, I realized I was trying to destroy something far more valuable than any parking lot. Don't worry, Richard. You didn't know. I want to make a proposal. Instead of a parking lot, how about we turn the area around the hangar into an aviation theme park? We can be partners. Walter looked at Dorothy and Robert. What do you think? I think my mother would be proud, said Robert. I think it's the complete fulfillment of our dream, said Dorothy. Then we have an agreement, said Walter. In the following months, the hangar transformed into the center of an educational and tourist complex dedicated to aviation. The Dorothy Jenkins Flight Academy became a national reference in aviation education for women. Jessica became the school's technical director and continued flying regularly, always accompanied by Walter, who never tired of seeing the sky from above. Robert found his calling managing the complex and never had financial problems again. More importantly, he completely reconciled with his mother and learned to support her dreams. Dorothy divided her time between the school in Wichita and the program in Springfield, finally managing to unite her two passions, aviation and helping children. And the old Skymaster C4? It became the star of the complex, flying daily with students and visitors, carrying the story of a family that was separated by fears and reunited by love. One Sunday afternoon, 6 months after the school reopened, Walter was teaching mechanics to a group of teenagers when one of them asked, Mr. Walter, what's the secret to fixing airplanes? The old mechanic looked at Jessica, who was across the hangar teaching navigation, then at Dorothy, who was showing instruments to a group of visiting children, and finally at Robert, who was organizing administrative papers. The secret, my dear, isn't knowing how to fix airplanes. The secret is never giving up on the people you love. Airplanes are machines, but people are what truly matter. And when you have the right people by your side, any dream can come true. The girl smiled and turned her attention to the engine in front of her. Walter watched for a few minutes and then walked to the hangar window. Outside, the Skymaster C4 stood on the runway, gleaming in the afternoon sun. In a few hours, it would take another flight, carrying new dreamers to touch the sky. Walter smiled, remembering that morning 4 months ago when a young engineer appeared at his door and changed everything. Jessica hadn't just fixed an airplane, she had fixed an entire family. And the most beautiful part was knowing that Dorothy would be there the next day, and the day after that, and all the days to come. The 20 years of separation had ended, but life together was just beginning. That night, after everyone had left, Walter, Dorothy, Robert, and Jessica sat in the hangar, listening to the silence of the night broken only by the wind passing through the airplane's wings. Jessica, what will you do now? Asked Dorothy. What do you mean? You've already accomplished what you came here to do. The airplane works, the family is reunited, the school is running. There's nothing left to fix. Jessica smiled. Mrs. Jenkins, there's always something to fix. Other airplanes, other families, other dreams. And besides, I've learned that this is my place. Are you sure? I am. Do you know why I insisted so much on making this airplane work? Why? Because when I looked at Mr. Walter that first day, I saw my own grandfather. He was also a mechanic, and he also had dreams he never got to fulfill. When he passed, I promised that one day I would help other old dreamers achieve their dreams. Walter was moved. Your grandfather would be proud of you. I hope so. And I hope your story inspires others to never give up on their dreams, even when everything seems impossible. Robert stood up and looked at the airplane. Mom, Dad, Jessica, thank you for teaching me that it's possible to fix the mistakes of the past. Son, we all make mistakes. The important thing is to learn from them and move forward, said Dorothy. And move forward together, added Walter. Jessica looked at that family she had adopted as her own and felt a deep peace in her heart. When she woke up that morning 4 months ago, She had no idea she was about to live the most important adventure of her life. "You know what moves me the most about this whole story," she said. "What?" asked the three. "It's that tomorrow we'll wake up and there will be new students arriving, new dreams to fulfill, new flights to make. The story isn't over. It has only just begun." Dorothy stood up and walked to the airplane, gently running her hand over the fuselage. "Thank you for keeping our secrets for so long," she whispered to the aircraft. "And thank you for bringing us back to each other," added Walter. When they left the hangar that night, the Skymaster C4 was alone in the dark. But it wasn't truly alone. It was surrounded by the dreams of all the women who would learn to fly in that place, by the plans of all the families who would be inspired by that story, and by the certainty that tomorrow there would be new skies to explore. And as the moon illuminated the hangar through the windows, a gentle breeze made the airplane's propellers spin slightly, as if it were dreaming of the next flight, the next adventure, the next opportunity to turn dreams into reality. The end of the story. So, dear listener, what did you think of this story of perseverance and reunion? Have you ever been in a situation where persistence made all the difference? Leave a comment sharing your experience, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories like this one.